As the gag goes, the cat has 9 lives. Puss in Boots had 9 lives but frivolously wasted all of them except 1. And one step at a time, true death comes knocking. After a bone-chilling sequence that leaves Puss scared for his life, he goes to a daycare. This cat daycare serves to humble Puss in Boots. This shows him that he's actually not very special and he's just a mortal cat like everyone else. This also introduces us to Perrito, the dog that's going to be following us. Soon after, Puss searches for a map to lead him to the star that grants wishes. As this happens, they're followed by Goldilocks and a trio of bears, and Jack. As their adventure continues, they use the map to guide them further along. As they enter the magic realm, they find out that everyone who looks at the map has a different path revealed to them. The map reveals your underlying intentions and how to solve them. For Puss, he had to go through the Valley of Incineration, the Undertaker Ridge, and the Cave of Lost Souls. Puss's route is filled with pain and confusion. This represents where Puss is mentally at in the story. Soft Paws has the Swamp of Infinite Sorrows, Mountain of Misery, and the Abyss of Eternal Loneliness. In the story right now, she can't trust anyone, so this makes sense. The dog's destinations symbolize how he's always happy, content, and how he deserves love. Our view of the world is shaped by our vision, and our vision determines our will. In other words, what we want, or think we want, determines what we perceive. This is not only metaphorically, or rhetorically, or poetically, or theoretically true, but biologically true. Sight is biologically expensive and consumes a lot of brain power. Thus, we only have a small slice of view that we can really pay attention to. All the other stuff around is really just periphery. This is similar to what Puss in Boots is doing. For much of the movie, he had his vision set on the peripheries and ignoring what he's supposed to be focusing on. Puss sees himself as a hero, and heroes are immortalized in society. Figuratively. We remember great people who had their names stamped in history. Puss in Boots was on a mission to live that out, literally. He was the brave, favorite, fearless hero who laughed at the face of death. But this life is ultimately a mirage. Ultimately, Puss ends up on his last life and comes face to face with his own mortality. Comes face to face with death. Literally and figuratively. Although we'll talk more about that scene later. During the fight on the star, everyone realized that what they really wanted, what was truly more important in life to them, was the more sentimental things. Those things that don't need to be artificially wished for, but genuinely revealed to them. Goldilocks had her family right from the beginning. She just needed it revealed to her through the journey. Soft Paws had someone she could trust right from the start. She just needed the journey to reveal it to her. Puss wanted genuine love and friendship. He just needed the journey to reveal it to him. As he begins his last life, he holds a funeral for himself. During this funeral, he is alone. This was a symbol of his hollow hubris. This persona had to be temporarily foregone in order to humble himself.
Any special someone you can rely on in this moment of need?
I am Puss in Boots, loved by one and all.
Anyone in particular?
I mean, how could I possibly choose?
Since Puss is now on his last life, he begins to get a bit existential. He starts to realize that his life needs substance in order to be meaningful. He's been eating appetizers and dessert his whole life. Now he needs a main course. Death, not that death, is ultimately what gives life meaning. In a paradoxical case, the impetus of life is death. Everything we do is in part because of our knowledge of death. It gives us a sense of urgency. If life didn't end, we wouldn't have the urgency needed to pursue life meaningfully. During the third stage of the journey, Puss gets stuck in a cave by himself. Literally. He then begins to fight his ego in the cave until death finds him. Literally. And once death does find him, he destroys all of his lives. Literally. Puss is facing his mortality. This leads him to literally run away from death. But Puss cannot keep running away from death. He's going to have to face it. The first time he let him get away as to sort of tease him. The second time he lets Puss get away in order to spice him up. When he fights him for the third time, all of the preparations will be complete. Puss can no longer run away from his problems. He must confront them head on, and it's by doing this that he's able to fight. It is only by bravely confronting his problems that he's able to eventually overcome them. And by overcoming your problems, you become stronger. Puss is embarrassingly outclassed in their first encounter, but now he fights him as an equal, if not a superior. In their first encounter, Puss is selfish and has no meaningful relationships. In the last encounter, he's fighting for someone. Even when he's isolated and alone physically, he is not mentally. Puss realizes that it is better to have few meaningful relationships built on selflessness and love than it is to have multiple superficial relationships where the other party's entire role is to boost your ego. The meaningful relationships are what make you stronger. Now, the only one who didn't get their happily ever after was Jack. He was the only true villain of the movie. Death fought and tormented Puss, but you could ultimately tell that he did actually kind of care about him. He was only going to kill Puss if he had a large ego. He also tells Puss that he wasted his lives. Notice the word choice there. Wasted. Not used up, but wasted. And in the end, he even tells Puss that he should go out and live a good life. Death is, in part, Puss in Boots' conscience. Jack, however, ignored his conscience many times. Jack represents something similar to Puss. He had everything someone could need, but still wanted more. He ignored his conscience, and that ultimately got the best of him. Jack, even in the end, remained unsaved.
You know, I think all you have to do is stop and smell the roses. Don't rush through it. Take your time and really appreciate what's right in front of you. I already have a comfy sweater and 2 best friends. I got everything I could wish for.
Into the Wild is a movie about someone who sells all of his possessions and embarks on an Alaskan journey. Our character ultimately dies of starvation, but before he does, he writes in his journal, "Happiness is only real when shared." The profundity of that statement is palpable. Don't take life for granted. Don't take the people around you for granted. What I like about Puss in Boots is that while he accepts death as a reality and doesn't fear it anymore, he still goes on adventures. As you grow and develop as a person, it doesn't mean that you stop expressing yourself. For Puss, he needs to learn that he needs to express himself sentimentally, to learn loyalty and go on adventures with people around him, to go and share his happiness. When you live a life for yourself, it will not fulfill you. Let's say you lived a long, realistic life. Right now you're 65 and on the tail end of your career. You lived it big in your head. At some point you became the highest paying employer at your job. That was all nice, but it was 20 years ago at this point. You're now being replaced by young, spry talent. Now you come back home to your nice house that you work to keep clean, but there's no one there to enjoy it with you. All the rooms in your house, but no one to occupy them. You can go on another vacation, I suppose, but you've probably been everywhere at this point. As you're being replaced, you look away from your wealth and look outside the window. You look out and you see the people that you grew up with, people that you financially outdid. But now you're watching them plan their weddings for their children. Now you're seeing them welcome grandchildren into their lives. You can't even share the joy with the people that you grew up with because you just saw them as a means to an end. You didn't develop close, authentic relationships with them. 20 years later, you're on your deathbed with no family and no friends to mourn you and willingly take care of you as you die. After death, your legacy is essentially a name ticked off in the hospital. You can live life 9 times over like this, and it wouldn't change a thing. Those 9 lives that you lived wouldn't even be as meaningful as one meaningful life that one person lived. You see, the sentimental relationships that Puss was able to garner will last longer and more meaningfully than his fame. All 8 of them put together. He will live authentically in their memories. This one life that Puss is living right now is more meaningful than his last 8 lives put together multiplied by 12. And I'm sure Puss would agree. When you're living for and with other people, you have something to protect, and this will make your spirit stronger. Those are the things that make life really worth living. And for whatever reason, this children's movie decided to teach us about that. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Most of you aren't subscribed. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.